The Effective Living series is sponsored by Enterprise Insurance and Hallmark Freights and Logistics Ghana Limited.
1xBet. Easy betting, easy winnings. 1xBet, the most reliable service to make deposits easily with high odds and numerous bonuses on the spot. Register now at 1xbet.com.gh. Use promo code BESTODDSGH to get 300% bonus up to 3,445 Ghana cedis on your first deposit. Easy to use, easy to have a chance to win. 1xBet, reliable bookmaker. Gambling can be addictive. Bet responsibly. Not for person under 18 years. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission.
My name is Francisca Schroeder. Fobaska Enterprise is the name of my company. Fobaska deals with stationery items. It is a broad business and it takes a lot of funds to run. ABSA, formerly Barclays, has been my banker since my days as a student and has been very helpful to me. My relationship manager just called me and asked, Fobaska, can we help you? I said, okay. He came to my shop after checking my turnover and records, said I could apply for a loan and training under the ABSA Young African Works program. I did, and it was very exciting. I will encourage other entrepreneurs to join the ABSA Young African Works program to also get the training and benefits from the program to take their business to the next level. ABSA Medase for taking me to the next level.
This partnership is in collaboration with MasterCard Foundation. That's Africanacity. That's ABSA.
It's creamy, creamy plus, delicious milk, creamy plus for you.
Creamy Plus is a delightfully delicious option whenever and wherever the occasion calls for milk. For your quick meals on the go or quality time at the dining table, jazz up your favorite Gary Soakings, mashed king cakes.
rocketing and landlords are giving tenants a hard time. Owning a decent, affordable home is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And Yugo Flip is here to make the home ownership journey realistic, fun, and more affordable than you can imagine. Yugo Flip is a real estate gaming company that rewards houses as prizes or gives houses as prizes in 3 easy steps. Log on to yugoflip.com, register with your phone number or email address, and buy as many tickets as possible. You could win a house at Pram Pram. Even if you don't win the biggest prize, you get rewarded with loyalty points equivalent to $3 a ticket. Now you can accumulate all these points and use it as a down payment towards your next home with Yugo Flip or with other affiliated property developers.
And don't forget that our birthday messages, are brought to you by Creamy Plus Evaporated Milk. And Creamy Plus takes you back to the original creamy taste of evaporated milk. Now, I'm sure those of you who are parents have stocked up on some Creamy Plus to make breakfast for your kids going back to school today. Yes. You need to get some nice cartons of Creamy Plus and stock up at home. Creamy Plus contains all the essential vitamins in a milk with vegetable fat, and it's gentler on your stomach. Now, Creamy Plus is available in all Goyle shops, Bachelor Total, and other supermarkets in your neighborhood. For bulk purchase, contact Les Fam Distributors. They're at Medina Ritz Junction. Call them on 0501 682 522. Or Grace has found us at Akuko Photo in Dansuman. Call them on 0245 162 747. And imagine the things you can do with an extra 50 CDs. What would you do if you had an extra 50 CDs?
Today they're like something go busy.
What would you do?
Some extra topic on that one.
But you know how it would cost about 50.
Yeah, but that's
some
like,
nice watching.
But you know how incredible it is for us to say, 50 CDs will just top up watching.
It's incredible. It is actually. It is. 50 Ghana cedis.
Yes. Oh yeah, it's true. 50 CDs, we are topping up our fuel.
Yeah.
But today we're stopping some watching.
50 CDs was everyone here is eating watching.
Yeah.
Like not just like
because all of us here would all get watching. But these days 50 CDs now. All of us are watching.
Well, ZPay says you can now shop at your favorite restaurants on us. They're giving 50 CDs cash bonus to all first-time MoneyGram to wallet receivers. Ask any of the more than 4,000 agents nationwide. Dial *270# to register now. Chop, make a chop. Be empowered.
Chop, make a chop. Make you chop, make a chop.
Chop 50 CDs worth of food, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, a few birthday messages coming in. Happy birthday to my dearest friend and sister Fanny Nana Ampong. May this year open more doors and may favorable opportunities come running through those doors. That's from Shirley Ferguson.
Okay.
And happy birthday to Akosia Kwafo J. She's with WaterAid. Happy birthday to you, Akosia.
Happy birthday.
Let me say happy birthday to Jasmine Amwako Eche. Today is your birthday, and your mother, Erica Amwako Eche, celebrates you. And which we here at 97.3 Citi FM celebrate you as well.
Show, you can send in your comments on 0549 986 996.
And let me use the opportunity presented by the great tune in the background to wish happy marriage to a good friend of mine. We went to secondary school together, Wisdom Hedo of Georgia, currently teaching in the Ketu South municipal community. As a great teacher, we're in school together and recently got married. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it. But Charlie, congratulations to you. Happy marriage to you. Charlie, you guys will do great things together and we'll reach places. And then also, let me say good morning to Queen Warsaw, who also got married just a couple of days ago. And we celebrate you and every best wish.
But never ever did I think that an American rapper will dominate Ghanaian conversations like this. Typically American rappers would dominate a niche conversation. So like rap heads who meet and talk about, or maybe a conversation on Twitter, who's the greatest rapper of all time, that kind of thing. But what's the gentleman's government name? Robert Mills or Mill or something. Whatever.
No, he's
AKA Meek Mill. Everybody knows Meek Mill. McMillie.
Meek Mill.
Well, yeah, following the episodes that episode from Robert Meek. Okay.
Robert Remick.
Robert Remick.
Meek Williams.
Robert Remick Williams.
Yeah.
AKA Meek Mill.
Remick. The Remick is RIHMEEK.
I see.
So there's Remick or Remick. Robert Remick Williams.
Well, never ever did we think that an American rapper would dominate our conversation. But he's here now, following the video that has made the rounds, gone viral, trending on social and all of that. He has issued an apology. I saw a series of tweets yesterday, and of course those tweets have been captured brilliantly by citinewsroom.com. There's a story here that says Meek Mill apologizes over Jubilee House video. And for me, it's the featured image that kills me. There are 3 featured images in this collage. One where he's pointing to the coat of arms, and then another one where he and his boys are standing behind the lectern in their white tees and bling and all of that. I'm sure those are shots taken from the video. Now, American rapper, the story says, Meek Mill has rendered an unqualified apology to Ghanaians following his video shoots at the Jubilee House. The rapper received massive backlash after he released the video, meant to be a precursor to his new song on Instagram. I'm sure some people have heard the snippet that's made the round. I've heard the snippet. Now, in a tweet, Meek Mill said, quote, "My apologies to the people of Ghana by extension. We're still gonna push to make the connection between black people in America and Africa. What I'm trying to do is more than a video. You should see more coming soon. My apologies to the office of the president." Also, he also said the video was not in any form or shape meant to disrespect Ghanaians. So for those who are just waking up and don't know what's happening, Meek Mill and his crew were seen in a viral video rapping to some explicit lyrics and dancing at the Jubilee House after they were invited by the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. His visit to the presidency came after he performed at the Afro Nation concert on December 29. Now, the rapper and his crew later stood in front of the lectern, mostly used by the president during national addresses, to take some shots. Meek Mill and his team also took drone shots at the forecourt of the Jubilee House. Some Ghanaians were, however, incensed over the development and took to social media to take a dig at Meek Mill and the Akufo-Addo government. So that's the story. He says he's sorry. Look, he didn't know. And I also saw another tweet where he said, "Look, I'm coming here for the first time in my 30s. I don't know the culture here, so I'm sorry if it came."
Which is why I don't want to say the wrong person is apologizing, but he did what he was allowed to do.
I see.
Do you understand? There's no way he could have entered Jubilee House on his own, decided where he wanted to go and play his music, shoot his video with all his entourage, unless he was allowed to do so. So, whereas, it's nice, the decent thing to do, right? He noticed that there was some backlash. He obviously realized, oh, wait a minute, this didn't go down too well. Took the video down. He's issued an apology. But he did what he was allowed to do. Yeah. So, interestingly, I don't think we've heard anything from anyone.
We are yet to hear from the government.
Will we?
Are you
think?
expecting to hear?
I don't know.
And I'm only saying that.
I'm just saying that Meek has apologized. He's taken on the video. He's done a decent thing. But
my thinking on this is we've heard from the government via Meek Mill's apology. One, you hearing from the government is Meek Mill taking the video down. One.
Okay.
You hearing from the government is.
Are we sure?
Yeah. You hearing from the government is Meek Mill taking the video. Because if he hadn't been told, I don't think he was taking down the video.
You don't think the backlash on social media was enough for him to sit up and say, maybe this wasn't the best?
Do you know what Meek Mill does on social media?
Yeah, but you see, he's come to Ghana for the first time. He got some great PR. He enjoyed his trip. Everything was in the positive sense for him. Even his phone got stolen. He got it back. the whole thing was, there was a lot of euphoria. He left Ghana on a high. You know, he's talking about coming back, working with other artists. Then next thing he sees, people are tagging him on social media, angry. You've come to disrespect our country. We don't appreciate this.
But there would also be significant anger from the presidency on the matter, although it would not be public. I would be very surprised if there wasn't some level of anger, because one, if you have to put out such a video, you would perhaps have to run it by even people. Standard.
Godfred.
Hold on, I'm coming.
He filmed the thing.
No, I get you. That's what I'm saying.
There were people there
for the two of you, let me just quote something from his page
shot.
before you proceed.
Yes.
This is just by way of information. He tweets some 13 hours ago and says, I don't think they knew it was video footage when we asked to shoot. It's a small camera. The English is bad, but, manage it like that. I don't think they knew it was video footage when we asked to shoot. It's a small camera and one kid. In America, we didn't know this existed and was excited to show because they don't show Ghana on our media much. So I'll take responsibility for my mistake, not international.
Okay.
No, it's actually not intentional.
Wait, so is he trying to say that for the clips that we've seen, right? Now remember, from what we've seen, his whole entourage is there. He's standing at the presidential lectern. He's throwing his hands about, rapping to lyrics which are obviously being played back on some device so that he can rap along to it, right? To mime.
Yeah.
He filmed in not one room, not two rooms, not even 3 areas, outside the Jubilee House. Drone shots. You're trying to tell me that nobody in authority at Jubilee saw what they were doing. They were left out, like nobody saw or knew.
No, obviously they saw. You understand? But which is why I'm saying that my thinking, and I'm making assumptions here.
Yeah, I guess we all are.
Yeah, on why the video came down is the courtesy would have been why maybe Eugene and his office would say, okay, this is the video we shot. That is standard. That is the instruction that would have gone, considering the fact that you gave them access to shoot there. The next instruction is, can we see
what you shot?
What you shot before you put it out, if indeed you will put it out. Now, the fact that didn't happen, and again, I'm making an assumption that it didn't happen because the video was taken down. Because if they had shown the drone shots and all those things to Sarah, to Atta, Eugene and his school, I doubt Eugene and his people will say, put this on social media.
Yeah,
because they know what kind of backlash they would get.
Right.
Which brings us to the conversation you were having yesterday about just how unprofessionally this entire thing was handled, considering how I've been to the presidency before.
Yeah.
You've been to the presidency before.
Yeah.
Sky has been to the presidency before. You've been there before. We all know the processes that you go through at the presidency as a visitor.
Right.
Okay. So obviously he had a plug, the president's daughter. The president himself has said he was happy when his daughter Jan Kroma, who runs the creative arts something here, insisted that he meet Meek Mill. So obviously they were given certain privileges based on the fact that the president's daughter, who runs creative arts in this country, was along for the ride. And so perhaps would have said, okay, everything else does not matter. But that again brings me to the question, does she run the presidency and what happens there? Which raises the question Sky spoke about yesterday about security. There has to be, we must get to the point where there has to be a clear separation of, this is your side, run it there. When you enter this facility, somebody's rules work there. The person's rules say that I don't care who you are. Even the president at a certain point does not have control over where he is or what he says. Despite being president, there are rules about where he can stand, where he can sit, where he can go.
Right, protocol.
You understand? There's protocol for that because of the security implications. Right. So to have Meek Mill, I was at the concert, I had fun. Walk through with his entourage. It was a very large entourage. I saw them, they were on the stage with him. He came with about 40 strong. Okay, at the presidency, given the kind of access that they were given, obviously because rules were relaxed by virtue of the fact that they were there with the president's daughter. That is a problem. The fact that rules that are never bent for anybody was bent on that day. 2, when they were being bent, nobody sat down and said, okay, Meek Mill, we are bending the rules for you, but as we are bending it, can you show us that A, B, C, D? Because if you filmed in this country at certain locations before, They will tell you you can film. But before you put it out there, let us see
what it is. Yeah.
And this is not the secret. This is even basic. The creative agencies here that they will tell you, you can take a photo. Can we see what you are going to do with the photo first? Sometimes it's even part of your application process. That okay, I want to take a photograph of Richard Sky's statue at Adafianu. So okay, when are you using it? How long do you want to use it for? What angle are you taking it? Can we see it before you publish? In which form is it being published? So to have all those steps skipped for something that was done at the presidency means that it just got to that point where everybody was like, okay, look, this person came with a person of influence. And that is what happens when we allow rules not to work because there's a person of influence around. And that is where, for me, I'm laying the blame. First of all, the fact that rules were rules which normally are never bent for anybody were bent obviously because, like I said, Meek Mill's only access was because he went with the president's daughter, Jankroma, as confirmed by the president himself when he met them, that I was happy when my daughter insisted that I meet you. They shared the photos. Meek Mill was on the lawn with her. They were doing the 2 fingers, peace and love, everything. Obviously, no random Ghanaian musician is getting the kind of access that he got, even if the person is with whoever. Okay, so this was specifically organized by the president's daughter, who runs a certain part of the creative sector, the creative arts. And they need to sit down and review. And I'm again surprised that somebody who runs the creative arts agency, who sets the rules for creative arts in this country, leads an artist into the single most secure security establishment in this country, allows the person to run roughshod around the place, do whatever they want, albeit with a small camera, as he said, which is even a problem, and then put out completed content without you verifying. You, the person who runs creative arts and sets rules for people in this country, you did not verify. The permission that you gave Meek Mill to shoot there, what he shot, what he did with it, she should have looked at it. If it's going to be published, take a look at it and say, Meek Mill, okay, you cannot show my father's lectern. You cannot show this one. You cannot show this one. And I'm sure there's a unit that would have looked at this, at the president, who would have said, you cannot do A, you cannot do B, you cannot do C. We've attended events where you've covered events where the president is coming. Look, the big one in the political suite, what's his name? The elderly one, the head of protocol or something. I've forgotten his name.
Now it's Ambassador.
Ambassador something, yes.
Oh gosh.
Oh, please help me with his name, Bernard, if you can.
It's no longer the one with the afro. It's
no longer the one with the afro.
No, it's a different gentleman.
Yes.
Okay, I'll get
Richard, before the president arrives, that gentleman walks through everywhere. He'll tell you, look, you cannot use this glass. This thing has to go here. Why is this chair here? Okay, swap this chair. He does that 3 or 4 hours before the president arrives. Everything is meticulous. They do not stray from it. So the concern for this, and the reason why this should never happen again, is this situation where we have, okay, this person was brought in by what we would regularly call a familiar. Somebody who walks through the place all the time. Okay, but the fact that you are entering with a familiar, and this is a very highly exposed familiar because this is the daughter of the president. So basically all the rules were bent, which under normal circumstances should not happen, irrespective of, because of who the person they came in with. I mean, we've had people in this country. Meek Mill is nice. I love Meek Mill's music. But Onyo Biasa is fine. We've had celebs in this country who are of a much more significant profile than Meek Mill. Okay, he's a great artist, but we've had bigger ones in the country. Let's be honest about that. Since we started doing this year of return,
we've had bigger
artists come through this country, and none of them were afforded that kind of, So for me, the issue lies with the inability to, one, break the rules because there was a politically exposed person who gave access. Now that person, by virtue of the person's role, or the person's function, which normally regulates what creative people do, then did not go back and say, well, I've given you access, can we look at what you do with this?
Yeah.
For it to be put out and then there is backlash. You see, because it also brings me down to something I've said on this show before about how we do not vet people properly. because you would ask questions. Okay, what are we going to? The last time I saw Frank Anodompe, which is why I mentioned Honorable Anodompe, on the Twitter handle, share a photo of Meek Mill in a place reported to be the White House. Meek Mill did not go to the White House. That was a set. Meek Mill, 2018, when he was released from jail, was supposed to meet Trump. Jay-Z told him, no, it will be bad for your image because of who they thought Trump was as black people.
As black people, yes.
Now, it wasn't a friendly visit. They were going there as a panel to discuss prison reform based on his legal issues in the country, which is why he was going there. So he was going there as a part of a panel that had senators, that had educators, that had all kinds of people. He wasn't the flagship person, not to shoot a video. He was going there as part of a very powerful group of people to have a conversation about prison reform. He did not go. Jay-Z said no at the time because he was on Jay-Z's label.
Yeah, Def Jam.
Those who know it know. You understand? So he did not make that trip. So the point I'm making on this particular thing is, look, set a criteria. Meek Mill in Ghana, fantastic. He played an awesome show. Look, it was one of the best 7 minutes of my entertainment, of my Christmas.
Chilling.
Okay. But the best he should have done is the meeting with Jan Kroma.
And it ends there.
It ends there. The presidency? No. Meek Mill has not reached the level where he meets a president.
Or as we said, he could have even met the tourism minister.
He meets somebody, you see.
Head or
We don't want to be seen to be doing the job of the people who vet the people who visit the president. But frankly, like I've been saying, it's like somebody's business there to say, I can get you to meet the president. If you look at the list of persons who have met the president, it's a bit of a problem. They need to tighten this. Nobody has said the president should not meet people because he's the face of what he's trying to do. Lead this very interesting attempt to portray Ghana in a certain way. Right. And he's very hands-on about it, which is fantastic. It's so every once in a while, he attends. We saw him at the Global Citizens concert. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, although he was booed, it's fine, but he showed up. It's part of selling the country.
Part of the push, yeah.
Okay, but there are certain people, you look at the profile, who are they? What do they mean? Look, I didn't complain about the president meeting Chappelle. You understand? Because for me, as a student of the art,
you understand
Chappelle's stature in art is significant.
Extremely.
Okay, as compared to a Meek Mill. So there's things that Chappelle, that is why they Chappelle to talk at the University of Ghana.
Exactly.
You understand?
Meek Mill didn't go.
Chappelle spends his time at a lot of places talking about Africanism, although in comedy. But he talks about the really difficult topics, some of them albeit very controversial. Okay, so we need to weigh some of these things. Steve Harvey came to pass through. Did he meet the president?
I'm not sure if he did, but even Steve Harvey is an icon.
Steve Harvey is huge. He doesn't need to. The fact that he's come, he shared his photos, spoken well of his experiences, all that we need. Once in a while, the president comes in and says, yeah, but these things that lead to this, come on. I mean, and you see, just to wrap this up, Meek Mill over the weekend, he got into a fight. The Gervonta Davis fight. You like
Javonte, he was there.
He was at the Gervonta Davis thing. He was drunk.
That's when he said
on Saturday. And he said if those who follow box, he said he will beat Gary Russell Jr. Then he came. Meek Mill says, come and sit down. To start your segment, Meek Mill says he will beat Gary Russell Jr., one of the top 10 pound-for-pound best fighters in the world. Meek Mill said he will beat him.
When you are under the influence, you believe.
He do that thing. He rushed that thing finish where Guy Russell go do some interview yesterday, but the way Meek Mill apologized, he said, "Charlie, no man, no man, saka craft me." Because he realized that Guy Russell go beat us on beating.
All right. So listen to the Citi Breakfast Show. Coming up next is tech and social media trends, and the segment is brought to us by
our friends at Cal Bank. You can get free access to our short code service, *771#, CalNet, and the Cal Bank app when you reactivate your Cal Bank account between now and the end of the month to stay on top of your account. It's so easy. Just go to any Cal Bank branch with your Ghana card to complete your account reactivation form and get free access to any of our digital solutions. Cal Bank, forward together. It's also brought to us by Vodafone, and with just one Ghana cedi, you can have 20 minutes of talk time to all other networks and 1 gigabyte of data every day between 5 a.m. and 11:59 a.m. All you need to do is dial *530# to subscribe and enjoy longer conversations and browsing. Vodafone, further together.
Daniel Cranton is here with tech and social media trends.
Nathan.
Yes, sir.
The guy said he's sorry. Oh, let's move on.
No, it's okay. We are moving on.
Oh, we should focus on people who give him permission to shoot.
Oh, that's true. That's what that one.
He said he's sorry. Oh, Meek Mill. He's still trending number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's that? If you catch somebody, then you stretch them.
No, but I don't think people are going after Meek Mill. No, I don't think so.
No, but it's the comments under his apology tweet. They are still Charlie.
Yeah, because he's the only one who has come forward as kind of like to present himself as a sacrificial lamb. Do you understand? So of course he's going to bear the brunt of the vitriol. But yeah, at least he acknowledges that something wasn't done right. So.
Oh, Meek Mill.
Meek Mill. He had a good time here, though.
Oh, yeah.
Really enjoyed himself.
The boys had a
very good time.
Yeah.
Charlie, when he's writing the book about the December I spent in Ghana, the things that will be inside, including the phone. But Pastor Frank is trending.
Hey.
Yeah, Pastor Frank. He's trending alongside Boot. There's this girl on TikTok, Miss Annie.
Okay.
Yeah, she posted a TikTok video about experiences with boat drivers in Kumasi.
I see.
Yeah, about how some of them charge their own fares. They call you to ask if you have discount. If you have, Charlie won't take you, and things like that. And then they try and negotiate the price with you before they go. She said that in the they should stop. Then the boat is like they have an association on WhatsApp, WhatsApp group page. So they posted a video on the group page. When they tear the girl on the platform, and there's a boat driver on the platform. He's called Pastor Frank. The matter it happened on Saturday. Sunday, Pastor Frank went to church to go and preach. But see what he's saying about the girl on his WhatsApp.
Oh,
Pastor, we see everything. The eyes of the Lord catch you right now. So right now, Pastor Frank is collecting hits on social media.
Why? What did he say?
Oh, he said we are not. They think we are scared of her English. And people were adding things inside. They tell the girl on the platform. It's not a joke. Small girl, she's in tech. She's like, I think 30 or second year. Girl. Then they triggered you like that if you're going to carry her on your platform.
Pastor Frank.
Nathan! Over this weekend, there was this picture on social media. It was a question. It says, without saying your age, say something a young person today would understand.
Yeah. I saw it.
Oh, God. Charlie, I've never been triggered by age like that.
Oh, why?
I was expecting not to be able to relate with some of the
But some of the things you realize that you know.
So do you know what it means?
It means that, Charlie,
I grow. Oh, Charlie. I thought I was there a baby boy for life.
Forever and ever.
Oh, no. And the comment section too, the Gen Zs, they are not happy. But why are you pre-age? I don't understand.
I don't get it. Everybody will grow. So.
Yeah.
Me, if I get, I'll be 25 for life. I will stay 25 for the rest of my life. They're angry.
That's what
somebody posted this. He said a young person will not know how to bend a CD onto this. They are angry.
Yeah.
They bore.
Why?
They say they can Google.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
That CDs was like 10 years ago. They know.
Okay.
If you don't know it, we are playing to you've taken the thing personal. What's that? This one is not part of the trends, but I said I'll ask you people. Is it just me, or does everybody else calculate the December days in dates instead of days?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So
at a point you kind of lose track of what day. I mean, at a point I have to even check my calendar to say, okay, it's
today's
Tuesday.
Yeah. So I'll be like, we will meet up on 26th. Instead of saying, let's say Tuesday.
Right.
Oh, let's meet on 31st. But when it passes 2nd January, then we'll go back to Monday.
Of course, because now the holidays are over.
So it happens to everybody.
You correlate the dates with the holidays. So 26th is Boxing Day. We know it's a holiday.
Let me show you.
31st
you know
New Year's Eve.
The Christmas week from like 25th.
Yes.
At a point, I couldn't tell which day was which day.
At a point, me from 23rd.
You know? So I had to check. I said, today's Tuesday. Okay.
It's the holiday feel, Charlie. Everything just blends together. Yeah. That's all it is. You're not growing too old, Danny. It's just
it's not old age. It's not old age.
Okay.
It's the holiday vibe.
Yeah. Boy for life.
Yeah. Now, second social media trends brought to us by Cowbank and Vodafone.
holistic well-being in the coming year. Week 1 will focus on the importance of physical preparation for 2023. After that, we will take a look at emotional and mental health imperatives for 2023 in our second weekly series. Then, we will proceed to the third weekly series with emphasis on professional priorities for 2023. In our fourth and final week, we will dig into the strategic conversation on building financial foundations for 2023. The Effective Living series will be live on the Citi Breakfast Show on 97.3 Citi FM at 9 a.m. and on Breakfast Daily on Citi TV at 9:30 a.m. from Monday through till Thursday. So join us and let's get ready to be equipped with practical information for building back better in 2023. The Effective Living series is sponsored by Enterprise Insurance and Hallmark Freights and Logistics Ghana Limited.
1xBet. Easy betting, easy winnings.
Our Effective Living series. This is week 2, and it's all part of getting you ready for 2023. This week we are talking emotional and mental health imperatives for 2023. Next week we'll talk about
So we're talking to Dr. Lali Fiagbe this week, and he's the head of the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Ghana Medical School, and he's also a fellow of the College of Physicians and Surgeons, Ghana, and he also runs his private clinic, and he's basically helping us think about what mental health is, what are key mental health issues, what are some of the more regular ones, you know, and how do you treat them? So I think it's a very important conversation to have. He was my mate in secondary school.
I see.
And he's now the head of department.
We've seen a couple of pre-seconds gracing the Effective Living series this year.
No, it's not.
It's nice.
No, yesterday.
It's nice.
Yesterday, my guest was your mate. It's called Dr.
Yes, Yaopebi is my mate.
Class at Richard.
Yes.
And
I'm just saying, I've seen a couple of pre-seconds as well.
No, it's not
deliberate.
It's not deliberate.
I didn't even know Sefoga is a
Did I even say it's deliberate?
I think if there was no prior disclosure of these interests, then there are issues with that.
How is this an interest? It's not an interest. I'm interviewing the guy is the head of the Department of Psychiatry. And you know, I was asking him how he sort of got into psychiatry. He says, look, there weren't a lot of psychiatrists and a lot of people interested in the field, and there's a big need for more psychiatrists. He was a very good student, a great musician. And
we are not contesting that.
He's decided to enter psychiatry. And he's the head of department. He's
Thank
a fellow.
you.
My name is
It's wonderful.
You know what it takes?
There's nothing
You know what
wrong with that.
You know what it takes to get a fellowship in medicine, aged in your early 40s.
You don't have to defend anything. No. It was just a simple observation. I think it's wonderful. Or that dear for life.
No,
Yeah.
But talking about
no.
talking about effective living and all of that.
No.
Effective living series. Who was telling us of the kind of corner government was in, and that they needed to have takers. Now, on the other side of the coin is the fact that there are some banks who are in a huge, red. They are in a problem. Now, the front page of the Graphic Business says 4 banks highly exposed. Now, 4 Ghanaian banks, according to the story, are feared to be highly exposed as the government pursues an aggressive debt exchange program to balance off its books and secure a $3 billion bailout from the IMF. The bank's 3 indigenous and 1 multinational have overly been stretched or overstretched. That's what the story is saying, due to their overexposure to government debt securities as a major source of safe investments. Banking sector analysts have revealed that although all the 23 banks in the country are exposed due to the ongoing debt exchange program, the 4 banks, however, are in a distressed state. According to Synergy Ghana, an investment advisory firm, the 4 banks had an average of 54% share of their assets specifically invested in bonds, thereby exposing them badly. Now, the banking sector is the most dominant investor in Government of Ghana debt instruments, a phenomenon induced by both regulatory and market economics. Wow. Those are just the initial first few paragraphs of the story. For those who want some numbers, in 2017, only 10 billion cedis worth of GOG issued debt securities was held by the banks. As of 2021, banks held over 55 billion cedis in GOG debt securities, representing almost 30% of total banking industry assets. So that's what he's saying. Bernard, so in simple English, what are they saying?
Oh, but we've already said I've already told you all of this, so I don't even see
Why?
Yeah, this is something we've discussed, and I have. I mean, I don't know if you remember. We spoke about the exposure of our banks and all of that. For me, I think the reckoning is what we're seeing, and it's going to be a long, painful 2023 and beyond. What surprises me is the lack of advocacy on various fronts to provide alternatives or to either go to court or to take a more strong action. I mean, if you are an investor in a pension fund or any of these funds, you should be telling your pension funds what you want them to do, whether you want them to accept this, what I consider very unfavorable terms or not. So the fact that banks are, what tends to happen is that the news cycle tends to glorify banks. It's like, oh, banks will be hit, so all suffer. Well, a lot of us suffer, and banks don't even suffer. If you look at the economy, there are many times where economies are not doing well and banks do very well. Ghana is one of the most profitable banking sectors in Africa. So if banks will take a hit, it is as well, because everybody else is taking a hit. The real question is government taking a hit? In what way is government taking the hit? Is government accepting responsibility for its actions? I think those are the questions we should ask. As for the exposure of banks and their capital, look, we had from 2017 to 2019, some banks went under. The banking sector is still going on. If 2 or 3 banks disappear, that's not the end of the world. But the question is, will pensioners get their monies? Will people who've put monies to pay school fees of their children be able to get the money? Those who are investing those of you who want to send your kids abroad to go to Harvard and things, you want to pay for their tuition. You've been putting money aside with these investment funds. Will you have your money? You've put money aside to build a house or buy one. Would you have your money? Okay, now that they've robbed the individual bondholders, where is the advocacy? Where are the bondholder groups? In other countries, people came together and said, look, we don't accept this is that. I see a lot of individual action. So you see labor unions coming out, these different people speaking, but you need concerted action to say, look, this is not the way to go, because you're basically reducing people's interests on their loans by a huge chunk, over 50%, and you're extending their tenure. Look, we're in 2023. You are telling somebody you're going to pay him in 2039. Would you even be alive in 2039? What kind of world do we have? What kind of currency will we be using? People are talking about crypto and things. I mean, and the amount of data created in the past 2 years is more than the data we had from the beginning of time to the previous 2 years. So if you're talking about extending the tenure of my payment to 2020, Charlie, if a week is a long time in politics, in a modern world, a day is a very long time. So to think that, there's a very interesting article in the graphic business, which I feel is good for reading, not the one you read. There's one in the middle spread of the same paper, which was a Nigeria-centric article where the guy was saying Nigeria is faced with the crossroads. So basically, Nigeria has an election in February, and then they're saying whoever wins the Nigeria election has 2 choices. Do they go east and follow Kenya, or they go west and follow Ghana? Very proverbial. The basic argument is that Nigeria also has lots of due debts that are probably going to default. And they're saying Ghana, after 2020, made some choices. 2020 election, December. Kenya had an election in 2022, August. They also made some choices. And the guy is saying, will Nigeria go east and follow Kenya's example, or go west and follow Ghana's example? Now, Godfrey, tell me what Kenya did and what Ghana did. And this is somebody writing for a paper in Nigeria, right? So, and I'm bringing this to say that I've lost. It's almost like I don't have the words to describe the sadness and the seriousness of the situation, and how muted
the responses.
You get me? It's almost like, oh, Charlie, whatever will happen will happen. Ki sera, sera. You just read the first.
Yeah, let me just read. So it says, after December 2020, Ghana's government did not go to the IMF and did not slash budgeted expenditure. Then higher global borrowing costs in 2022 were the catalyst for its default on domestic debt. And into brackets, external coming soon.
At the time, external has also come.
Yes. The price of Ghana's long-dated Eurobonds have crumbled to around 30 cents on the dollar. After Kenya's August 2022 election, the new president removed the fuel subsidy, cut back on pre-election spending budgets, on pre-election spending pledges, and won a bigger than expected tranche of IMF funding. Its long-dated bonds have soared in price from around 60 cents to nearly 80 cents on the dollar. Does Nigeria carry the risk of Ghana, and can it do a Kenya?
So basically, what you're saying is that draw a chart, put Ghana on the left, put Kenya on the right. Under Ghana right, December 2020. And under Kenya right, August 2022. Then under Ghana right, go to IMF. Then you write no. Under Kenya right, go to IMF, write yes. Under Ghana right, reduce spending, no. Under Kenya right, reduce spending, yes. Just that. So when you fill that column, it's basically saying Ghana made all the wrong decisions, Kenya made all the right decisions, and Ghanaians are suffering for all the wrong. That's what he's saying. Okay. So if you say 4 banks are under stress, I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. Oh yes. So depending on how people respond to the debt exchange program, I'm told there are movements by different individual bondholders to also come together. Because when this thing was announced, we were saying that individual bondholders are more wealthy, so the government was trying to protect them. Well, because the uptake was so low, the government recalibrated and says individual bondholders are now part. Now we are told some of them will want to speak out.
Yes. I think we read a story that said, I think was it Martin Kpebu?
Yeah. That's even different. So Martin Kpebu's group, they are going to court. I think there's some legal guys who have come. So somebody sent me, I think you sent me something where they said there was going to be some class action for those who said they didn't want to accept the terms. But I feel individual bondholders as well, they are people of means. I'm sure they have an opinion on the matter. So what I'm just saying is that this story about the banks is just the tip of the iceberg. There are different exposures, savings.
But this might be maybe like the point you just made about Kesera Sera. A headline like this might be what wakes people up because of where we've just come from the banking situation, the banking sector cleanup, and right now every time banks are mentioned, people just
there's something
their ears perk up because it could mean job losses. It could mean this. Although the government has explained that it is trying to set up some kind of funding mechanism to make sure that the banks are not affected significantly by this debt exchange program. But
why wouldn't I want to be mischievous here.
Okay.
I took money to a financial institution. The financial institution said they were going to buy government bonds so that whatever I want to do with my money in future, I'll get the money. By no fault of my government say they can't pay.
Right.
So I should forfeit my principal and interest for 30 years when my son, so assuming I was saving for my son's university, you are saying that you shouldn't go to the university so that you can say that there's been no haircut. So you can say that you've solved the problem. And then you're going to make a 15 billion fund available for banks to save a bank. So what about my money?
Exactly.
What are you telling me? So for me, I the whole thing is wrong-headed. The idea that you are going to touch my investment. What you're basically telling me is that for the next 30 years of my life, any money I get, I shouldn't send it to a bank. I shouldn't send it to a savings and loans company. I shouldn't give it to a fund manager. You're even telling me I shouldn't contribute my pensions. That's what you're telling me. You're telling me if I get money, go and buy a land in Dodoa, plant teak on it, plant mangoes, go and buy somebody's poultry farm, or go and build. Do you understand? That's what you're telling me, because you're telling me that I should not lend to the government. And that damage is going to last for years. If you look at how the Rawlings years traumatized some private sector people, to the extent that many business owners don't even want to be known where they stand because of the attacks against private business. There are people I know who will still not talk to me because I'm a journalist, because they do business. They don't even want me to mention their names because the years of military attack against business so damaged their relationship with government. What you're saying today is that there are many people who will never take their money to an investment company again. You can come on here and say, let's make 1 million. You can come on here and say, let's save. He's not going to mind you. Because you've told us that the safest person to lend to is the government. And the government does not even come to say, well, this happened because I did this or that. It's basically blaming external factors. Right? So how do you expect me to ever send my money back to a financial institution? This is a question that somebody will be asking. And if you're going to save somebody, who do you save first? And the financial institutions, the ones who are supposed to even have more information. Right? So if somebody is supposed to suffer, don't you think that the individuals and we, the private people who have put money in these treasury bills and not treasury bills, these collective investment schemes should rather be saved? And the people who have more information, and in spite of the information they had, decided to still buy government bonds, should pay more? So why is it the other way around? So I don't understand. Honestly, I don't.
Maybe we'll get some answers along the line. But coming up next is Your Money. Your Money is brought to you by CBG. CBG, we stand with you. And Koku has the tip for us this morning.
Yes, Nathan, but Bernard has already alluded to what I was going to hit on this morning, which is about diversifying your investment portfolio and looking at other avenues with which you can make your money work for you. You know, I hesitate to say that confidence in the financial sector has waned or dwindled, but by all indications, you know, people are a bit skeptical now about where they're putting their money. But this is probably the time for us to do a bit more research about other options that are available for where you can put your money to get some good returns. So, and I think Bernard mentioned a couple of them. Are you going to go into farming? Some people go into property, you know, investing in buildings, brick and mortar, or some kind of business venture that they
people
think.
say Ghana, there's no money in Ghana. Sky, the number of houses being built in the country.
Giddy, giddy.
Hey!
Giddy.
Sometimes the money are from questionable.
My brother. And the pace of the buildings.
That's right. Yeah.
My Lord.
What I also noticed during this holiday season, restaurants
opening
everywhere you go. New restaurants, left, right, center. You know, lavish ones.
So invest in the real sector. Invest in the real sector.
Invest in other places. Find other ways.
Invest in my life.
You see, I mean, I was going to say that as part of the options that you look at, I think people should also consider seriously investing in their nieces, their nephews, or people around
your extended family.
Yeah, that's right. Because
pay their school fees.
Yeah, the best investment ever make
is education.
Is education and educating someone.
Oh, yes.
Honestly, if somebody didn't believe in me, somebody didn't say, oh, Richard, I think you have a potential.
Yeah.
Somebody who is not in any way related to me says that, oh, you have a potential.
Yeah.
Let me support you in this way. You have a potential. Let me support in small.
You would have still been a mate.
Yeah, that's right. So,
just that he's been doing longer distance. He was doing Accra Kumasi. He would have now been doing Accra Wagadugu.
I tell you.
Invest in somebody, people.
Okay.
Invest in human
resource in addition to other ventures. That's Your Money, brought to you by CBG. CBG, we stand with you.
A bank that supports you, a bank that cares for you. Hand in hand, we stand with you. So lift your head up, big dreams are waiting. We'll walk with you wherever you go. Where all your dreams are alive, CBG will make you smile. No matter we will rise with you. Your business will flourish, your name will stand out. Consolidated by CBG, we stand with you.
Local one multinational all because of the government's debt exchange program. Interestingly enough, I've seen some friends of mine have shared text messages with me, for example, from their banks. Some people have sent me, like, they've shown me text messages where their bank more or less is telling them, see, you have no choice than to subscribe to this debt exchange program, that kind of thing.
Well, I think it depends on the relationship you have. So if you're an individual bondholder, of course, you have been invited. And I think the government has been very clear in the language is used, okay? And I feel the key question now is for people who have, like, if you've invested in a collective investment scheme, what is your fund manager going to do? So is your fund manager going to say, look, I'm not going to opt for this. I'm going to liquidate at the current market price. And then I'm going to use the money to buy T-bills, because T-bills are offering high returns. So I think a lot of fund managers are scratching their heads because nobody is really. So you can decide not to go for it, but you need to be very intelligent as well to do with the rest of the money. So I don't want to mention a particular collective investment scheme, but if you're a fund manager for a collective investment scheme, you should be talking to your key customers and then doing the numbers with treasury bills and things to say, if I decide not to go for this, where would the legal route lead me to? If I even take the money I have at a discount now, what can I do with it? Can it give better value? Because if somebody says, I'm going to reduce the interest I'm giving you from 19% to 5% in the first year, another 5%, another 10% over how many years? If I say, okay, let me take whatever money I have that is left, and then let me go and buy T-bills, now what will it mean? So there's a lot of modeling that needs to be done. Then there's a lot of legal questions that need to be asked as well. So if somebody comes to Sky and sells to Sky, my collective investment scheme say we don't want to accept the debt exchange because according to the Godfrey Dame's advice to the minister, you can't force people. So he takes that document and credit to the Attorney General. Credit to the Attorney General because, you know, I was telling somebody that the Attorney General, I think you were saying 2 days ago on air or yesterday, that the Godfrey Dame has done very well. Because, you know, when you are in a very difficult situation as government, sometimes if you're even the legal advisor to the government, you may be forced to be part of groupthink. So, oh, Charlie, we want to do that testing. What do you think? The guy still wrote a sound legal advice. He put himself out of the thing and said, look, let me tell you. And even the previous one did that as well. When it came to that issue, remember there was this controversial issue, PDS. If you read Gloria Kufu's advice initially as well. Yeah. So I'm just saying this is a side comment that we should be grateful that our Attorney General's office, even though they are political appointments, because they are professional lawyers, they will give you the advice like a private firm has asked them to do it. And I think we should be grateful for that. So I'm saying that there are many conversations going on. So somebody will say, okay, Sky, I ran Aloski fund management, and we have 300 million Ghana cedis worth of money. Kokui and Godfred are part of my shareholders. Kokui and Godfred don't want me to take the debt exchange. So I go to Sky the line and say, Sky, what are my options? So Sky takes Attorney General's letter, takes Kenneth Frater's statement, looks at the situation that occurred in Trinidad and in Jamaica, Russia, Zambia, and then he does some spreadsheets. So there are discussions going on as to what options Aloski Investment can hold. So can Aloski Investment say we will not accept it? Because from what Mr. Dame has written, you can't force him to accept. But the truth is that if you don't accept, the options are very limited and you need a lot of insight and even you need to be clairvoyant to know how to deal with this. Okay, so that's one side. But the other side is that the point Kukui makes on your money, I think is a very important point we should discuss. You know, I feel, and there's data to prove this, that Ghana's economy is over-financialized.
How do you mean?
So if you take US or advanced countries, there's a ratio of their financial sector assets to what is the real sector.
Okay.
So if you have, say, $1 billion of real sector can accommodate, say, 3 times that a financial sector. So $3 billion of financial assets to $1 billion of real assets. That's the general rule. I'm giving this as a hypothetical example. In Ghana, the ratio is much bigger. That means that there's too much money for too small an economy. So what I'm saying is that when you go to Wall Street, what happens in Wall Street is a reflection of what happens in where their manufacturing sector. So the real economy, which manufactures like the GMs of this world, the Fords of this world, and all the things the US does, or you go to China, all the things they manufacture, the real sector, there's a ratio of that and the financial sector. All right. So the UK, in Ghana, that ratio is too big. It means that a lot of our wealth is just not real. It's just financial sector people making money. It's not backed by anything. So when people say the economy is over financialized, that's what they're saying. Now I'm saying that one possible, and I stand to be corrected on this, one possible benefit of all of this trouble is that people will take Okui's advice and say, so in the past, if Kokui has 1 million cedis, she will go and give it to Godfred Odum, who is running a savings and loan in a market, and give it to Godfred Odum at 20%. Godfred Odum knows that a lot of market women need quick money. So she will lend it to the market women at 25% per month. Until that Kokui has given money at 20%. So these market women have to work with whatever money Godfred has given them and pay back 25% a month so Godfred Odum can get enough money to pay Kokui. So that was the business in town. All right. So Godfred is making a lot of money by simply having enough information that Kokui has 20 million that she doesn't need now. And there are 100 market women who need money. And she's lending them the money at cutthroat rates, savings and loan or microfinance, and making a lot of money. So a lot of wealth and assets are in that space. It's not backed by much productivity. So now that the financial sector has taken such a hit and people are like, Charlie, I won't even give my money to these guys again. So Kokui may not decide to give the money to Godfred. So Kokui will go and buy land at Brekum and decide to do a cashew plantation and go to some partners in India to bring in a cashew processing machine and export cashew processed into China or somewhere. And she will say that that's better than going to just do this financial thing. Because some of the money she gave to Godfred Odum, Godfred went to lend it, went to buy T-bills, and went to buy government bonds as well. Because the million that he gave to Godfred cannot lend all to the market women. Yeah. So some of that money, Godfred went to give it to the government. Because government needed money now. But because of what has happened, Kokui will not even give the money to Godfred. And even if Godfred has the money and can't lend all, he will not go and buy government bonds. So he has to use the money to do something more real. So it's like a real sector. So now he will say
more tangible. Good.
So he said, okay, let's go and get land at give me a Dawa. Let's go and buy land at Dawa. They are coming to do an industrial park. Let's build apartments for the workers there. So you go and build 200 apartments. So there's productivity in construction. So the real sector will grow. So this again, I stand to be corrected, but I'm saying that possibly people's investment decisions will inure to the real sector better. Now, we are not saying that when you give money to a bank, it doesn't end up in a real sector. But the financial intermediation role of the banks has been severely hampered. Because if you look again at the banking numbers, so you take all the banks and their loan book, right? You take their interest income. The banks are supposed to lend money to people like, give me a third example of somebody, Caleb Kuda. Caleb wants to start a poultry farm. So, because Kokui doesn't know how to know your customer, so Kokui has $1 million. She gives it to the bank. The bank helps Caleb do the numbers and says, Caleb, you can do a poultry farm in Sunyani. So they lend $1 million to Caleb and they walk Caleb through the process. So banks are very important. I'm not saying banks are not important. All right. But what has happened with the past 1 year is that when Kokui gives the money to the bank doesn't give it to Caleb. The bank gives it to government. Yes. Because government is offering a higher interest than Caleb. So government is crowding out Caleb, the poultry farmer. So if you look at the bank's books,
their numbers,
their money is coming from buying government money,
which they thought was the most secure
thing. So in a steady state, the banks should have been doing the work of lending to the real sector, so the real sector can grow. But I'm saying that because of the government's own behavior, the banks are lending more to government, so they are crowding out Caleb, and the economy is highly financialized, and the real sector is suffering. So, Kokui, the rich woman in our example, will decide that she will not give her money to the bank that much, because the bank is just buying government money, and the government money is now impaired. So, if he has some investors who come, so Freeman and Co come and say, Charlie, let's start a new business, he'll probably give them the money. All right. So one of the potential positives in a whole basket of negatives is the fact that investment in the real sector will increase. Now, I use real estate as an example, where in the past, when the currency started falling in October, most people with money were doing one of two things. If Sky got 1 million CDs in October 1 and was thinking of what to do, by October 15, when the currency was depreciating so much, he was like, okay, should I go and buy dollars? But the dollar was increasing so much that even if he buys the dollars, where is he going to? I mean, if like the dollar was 10 when Sky got that money, the dollar was now 15 at the time he was going to buy. So it's like he's making a loss. He will be forced to do something tangible. So he'll go and look for some houses to buy. Or build a house, because a house is a store of value that doesn't go down. So we need people to track whether, with all the challenges of the financial sector, there is a positive something growing somewhere. Now, again, a few weeks ago, I came to you and I said, the way people are building aggressively in Ghana, I know what they are building. Now, Sky's explanation is that some of the people are building aggressively because there's a system where people are washing money. Now, washing money is a term that he's using to represent something very serious. So it's called money laundering.
Money laundering, yeah.
So, for example, there's somebody who's doing Sakawa. He's raising, and so I'm giving all these examples. I don't know. So maybe he's doing.
French call it blanchiment.
He's using Kululu to get
blanchiment.
150,000 pounds every week by swindling people. Now, if he gets that money, he needs to put the money somewhere. Now, he may decide to create some charity and say we are supporting Richard Sky charities, and Richard Sky charity is building some schools in some village. Then they use, so because they've created this fictitious Richard Sky Foundation that is supposedly building schools in Adafie or whatever, they've legitimized, and this could be money from drug cartels, money from anywhere. They legitimized the money by now say, oh, Richard Sky is doing some nice work. So they now, so they've washed the money.
So meaning that if they are asked a question, okay, so how are you funding this?
Yes.
Or
I have Richard Sky Foundation. Richard Sky Foundation has been building schools in the village. So it's like so even if like some crooks who are drug people are sending him the money, he will say they are donating to his charity because he's a credible journalist with international. He's the founder of Ubasogu, and he's building schools in villages because he used to be a Adafia, knew something. So that's how you wash money. So then some of it will legitimately go and build the house, but the others can also be shared. So they can put $1 million in his account as a whatever. He will use some of that money to build the house and use somebody to do something else. The other one is that maybe a corrupt politician in another country. So maybe, Nigeria or whoever. He has a lot of money and he knows that he's in trouble. So he comes to Ghana with his business partners. He finds a way, maybe puts the money in a car tire or something, US dollars, cash, brings to Ghana. And quickly they have to buy land and build houses. So they are also using money that they illegally acquired in their country to. So let's assume he buys part of a Blue Mountain. He builds a big waterfront. And then he puts that money there and says so even if the Nigerian authorities are looking for him, by the time they trace that money to that waterfront, it's like 50 years. So what I'm saying is that a lot of these, and the problem with all of this is that the people who manage our economy, I don't know if they are aware of these things or if they put in place they've put in place systems to measure these things. But one of the reasons, because we are not a poor country. If you drive around Airport Hills, Trasacco Valley, McCarthy Hill, go to a region, Kumasi. This is not a poor country. The money is stored up in concrete, right? Some of which the government is not able to properly tax. A lot of which is owned by politicians who are not interested in taxing themselves anyway, right? And then you are saying we are broke and therefore all of us should pay, including poor people's pensions, for this over excessive fiscal populism. Yeah. And they just give you the Kenya example. The Kenyan president, William Ruto, was the vice president to Raila Odinga. You know Kenya better than I do. He promised a lot of things before the election. What did Ruto do? As soon as he won the election and looked at the numbers, Ruto cut down subsidies. He reduced government spending. This is William Ruto. I brought William Ruto to Ghana a few years ago. I saw him personally. He's a young guy. I'm not sure he's 60 years old. He's a young guy. What did Ruto do? He removed fuel subsidies after winning the election. He cut back on pre-election spending pledges and won a bigger than expected tranche of IMF support. We said we won't go to IMF. We said government flagships, whatever they mean, whatever government flagships mean, we are not going to touch government flagships. We are not going to give haircuts.
He removed subsidy on electricity too.
Can you imagine? We are just
the hustlers.
Yes, we are just grandstanding. And you are now. So I'm saying that there are bad economic decisions that have been made, and the people who have to pay for it are not paying for it. And we, the ones who are suffering for it, we're nowhere near the crime scene. If I give my money to Data Bank that he should buy a government, I believe in the economy. I could have sent the money to buy a house in London. I didn't. I decided to invest in Ghana. You should not punish me for that. I believed in Ghana. The person should punish the guy who's running away. Okay. Last thing I'll say, back to Sky. You were saying, when Koki was saying that a lot of houses are coming up, you were saying, I need to also tell you that there's a lot of remittance coming in. Right? Join the remittance discussion. Maybe that's a different discussion for a different day. Join the remittance discussion with the discussion Godfrey was having about this whole year of return, beyond the return, and things. One of the best things this government has done is to make people see Ghana in a certain light, especially the diasporans. So there's a lot of confidence in Ghana in terms of, I want to have some piece of that. Akwesi Agyeman needs to come and tell us how he's translated that into tangible money, right? But there is something there. I don't know who that Meek Mill whatever is, but there's something. There's something there.
There's something.
And I want to posit that a lot of the buildings you're seeing, apart from the washing of money that you referenced, could also be because in 2020, private remittance overtook UOF Grants GIPC's FDI. That's very significant. So what your uncle is sending from London, what Koku's brother is sending from UK, together with what I'm receiving from my cousin in Italy, is much more than all the people who come in officially to come and invest in Ghana. That's very significant.
You see,
that's very significant.
You see, I agree with so many things that Bernard said, except to say that, you see, Ghana has quite a lax system for controlling finances from, that's right, and then also finances from dubious sources. Because the law on anti-money laundering is targeted at illicit financing in various forms. Because this is how drug cartels finance their business. This is how terrorists finance their activities.
You mean rebel groups?
Rebel groups and all of that. So there's a global response to problems like this. And money laundering is in 3 basic stages. So the first one is placement. So the money is from a dubious source. Maybe you are into trafficking of small girls and you take them somewhere and do all kinds of things to them and you earn money from it. So perhaps you are based in London. So the proceeds come to you. Now what you do is, because you have some nightclub or whatever it is, you get up and then you pay people to come to the club. So there's a semblance of serious activity.
Open a boutique.
Exactly. So
in Osu and put Gucci things that nobody will buy.
Yeah. And then perhaps you have a few friends or family members who you give money to every day. So they go and then buy, and it is recorded in the books as business transactions. So once that enters the system and it's on the books, you have placed it into the system. So the money then is taken by the person managing the store to the bank. You understand? So it has legitimately entered into the system.
Then it goes so in a cycle. So it's in a cycle.
So after placement, then there's something known as layering, which is what I was talking about. So it is coming from all kinds of sources. So you have some small distillery company, which is not really performing, but you have people who are going there and putting money there.
A small boutique, which nobody's going there.
Exactly.
You put some national service person there, who's always on Facebook.
Nothing is really happening, but something is happening.
It's my shop.
So when you layer it like that, all of them integrate at some point. So when they get integrated properly, then they are in the national economy. So then you can now go to a bank and say that, I own business A, business B, business C. And from all of these, I have earned A, B, C, D. So the party, the money is now properly integrated into the system. So really, in serious democracies, what happens is you target what people claim they are doing.
Okay.
So if you say that you import X amount of, cars into the country, where did you get the funding from? Who are the people who are buying the cars? And do they have the financial wherewithal to
actually the level of turnover that you claim you are?
Exactly. You understand? But because our economy is not formalized in that sense and it's not regulated in that sense, a lot of these things are happening. So you see houses going up. I mean, who is building them and for whom? And where are they getting the money from to build it? So there's a lot of conversation we need to have around things
but
like...
Can you not retrieve the money by using the back door? So even if you don't have a formal system of saying we can't track the money, we don't know who's building, just get people, wear them uniforms and let them walk from American House to Ajingano and label the houses one by one. Okay. Place all the houses in some database and value the houses. And say this house is at least $2 million. You will pay $100,000 on it. Otherwise, we'll take it from you. That's what serious government.
You see,
otherwise, you understand. So you are saying you have not been able to stop the money from coming, but the money has come in. But if you want to use that money to develop, because the real issue about development is using money from the collective, using money from individuals into a collective to help all of us. So that's the role of government, right? So you are not able to tax people. Every time you are just doing indirect taxes. You have a lot of property springing up. The property growth rate in Ghana between 2020 and now is just incredible. Like a few years ago, the first time I used Chado was like 2014-ish, 2015. And I'd driven somewhere, we've gone to living streams, got lost, and I'd ended up at Teshin somewhere, bush in Kwa. Go behind Trade Fair and drive from Chado to Spintex.
No.
You even see grass. The houses are plenty. So the economy has grown. Construction is growing. We don't know where the money is coming from. So you'll not be able to trace all that. But I'm saying that you don't need to wait. You don't need to go back. Just start from where you are and say, okay, we are government. We are broke. Right? People have built $2 million houses in Ghana. Nobody's living in it. And they are living in America. That house should be giving some money to government. If you are serious. So Ladade Kotopo municipal area should not be giving money from this assembly common fund. They should say, let's walk from Trade Fair all the way to East Airport and let's collect property rate from people and use the money to develop the community. Then let's send this assembly common fund to Garu Tempani and let's send it to Akati North. But I'm saying that the impetus to do that is not there because, number one, the politicians own a lot of these things. They don't have and number two, a lot of them need funding from some of these dubious guys anyway. So they are not able to really do the right thing. And then we collectively suffer. And I'm bringing all of that to say, this debt exchange is a manifestation of that. Bad economic management, poor economic choices, and inability to do the right difficult thing. And then sloganeering to make it look like you are helping me when you're actually hurting me. And I'm saying that's not on. You need to let the people who cause the mess bite the bullet, and you need to let those who have the means take the biggest cut. Not us, not pension fund holders, not people. I have people who have been investing in these like data bank things. They are teachers. Okay, like I have cousins and things who are teachers from the early 2000s, from their meager teacher salary. Every month they go and put something there. They've used that to educate somebody to university level, secondary school level. They are using some to buy some small and in Kasua. Like they are managing small. And you see, EDC, Data Bank, all these guys are advising people like Charlie, invest, and they are helping people. The truth is that they help people because if it wasn't for those, when I was in Legon, the Data Bank came and said, Charlie, you have to, they call it investment club, they changed the whole mindset. I was in part of an investment club. They talked about the stock exchange and all those things. And they were basically saying, even if you are earning 500 cedis, you can do something consistently, and through the power of compounding, you will be able to build your own house and things. Okay, so you can't now come in 2022 and come and tell me that because of Ghana's brokerage and because of all the things that you've done, my money should go away till 2039. Who's going to believe them anymore? Just what's Data Bank CEO going to say, or EDC going to say to somebody to come and give him money for the next 10 years?
That's right.
So we shouldn't see this just like some short thing they want to do to paper over the cracks to look good to win an election. No. This is a generational issue. Do you know 2039? Do you know how your daughter, do you know how old, do you know where she'll be? Look, I was talking to somebody, Michael Onifa was telling me that if somebody were in KG2 today, by 2039 or 2040, they will probably be entering the job market. So like your twins, they will probably in 2039 finish Ashesi, and they are probably doing spreadsheets for Bank of Ghana and things. And you be an old man in the village when I get out, drink Hausa Koko. And yet the money is still not paid. So basically you are impairing the future of your children. So we should have a proper conversation about this. This is not the way to do it. Mm-hmm. Do you get me? And when you have a difficult situation, you need candor. When we were broke, when COVID came, MD called everybody. What best car? Charlie, even if you don't agree, at least but you take responsibility. Mm-hmm. You don't say, well, you is your fault, and therefore you take the cut, and me, I'll be flying first class again, doing what I want to do. And then when you add all of this, like, unnecessary Meek Mill, whatever is going to the, like, almost like you are adding insult to injury. In a period where people are so financially stressed, is the time that you are now, Ocho, like, what's that?
Still listening to the Citi Breakfast Show. So it looks like this domestic debt exchange. For a lot of people, and Bernard, I think you make a point. Some people don't actually know how serious it is. I put together a hashed explanation for a friend of mine, just piecing together all the things I've heard Bernard say. And even I don't think I explained it even well. But even that, after hearing the person, oh, wow, this is deeper than he imagined.
Those who have
heavy.
money know what it means. So poverty is not just lack of money, it's also lack of information. So if you do a calculation, most individual bondholders, most people of means understand what this is. In fact, a lot of them probably moved before it happened. The poorer people, and part of the poverty is lack of information, will bear the bigger brunt of it because they don't have information, they don't have the choice. So it's going to perpetuate their poverty. That's the tragedy. That's why the Lord said, to whom that has, more will be given. And the one that doesn't even have, even the little has to be taken away. That's what's happening.
Bernard, I sympathize with all the people who are struggling as a result of these decisions that have compromised the pockets of almost everybody who's invested money in one form or the other. We'll go for a break. When we return, I think maybe what I have in mind.
Okay, then you can share with
because honestly, in the midst of all of this, it is the parents who cannot afford to send their kids to school.
Yeah, it's
who cannot
so
afford
sad.
to pay their fees. Yep. Who cannot afford to pay their medical bills. Look, my in-law called me the other day and actually warned that one of these days I may hear of her in the news. Because this is a widow.
I mean, it gave you. Is that
a widow? No. Yeah, who lost the husband. Thank God.
You hear of me in the news.
Yeah, that's right. There's something that she's been able, to save and all of that. And then advice from, relations that, let's put the money here. And basically based on the effective living series that we've been doing, you have to save money, you have to do this. The EDC people will come and tell us very beautiful things about how you use your money. All these funds went into investments that are to grow the money, so that if she needs some,
then you go take some.
So they use the interest to pay school fees.
Exactly. And pay medical bills or help this person here and there.
Yeah, man.
Then the first crisis happened.
Mark to market. The first one.
The banking sector.
The cleanup.
Exactly. All kinds of banks were consolidated. Some were wiped off the books. Money lost. Locked in there. To get it is a whole difficult matter. Then there was a decision. Move the resources from this place, take it to this other place.
Now,
investments having been made. Money to withdraw, they say that haircut. If you are going to get it, wahala. Even if you go, you want to get it the way it is, wahala. Look, it cannot be.
It's not.
It cannot be. We'll get back to this matter subsequently.
Still listening to the Citi Breakfast Show. Let's get into our effective living series for this morning, and we are speaking on the theme emotional and mental health imperatives for 2023. Today we are talking managing your mental health, and Bernard will be speaking with Dr. Delali Fiagbe. He is head of department of psychiatry at the
AKA Silla.
I see.
He's a great keyboardist.
Okay, he's at the University of Ghana.
I think Bernard is on some agenda to create the next president of the republic. And he's been saying this.
Okay,
you SSS something. But this, this presec.
Silla. Let me say the like land.
Let's move on.
The like land.
All right. So Dr. Delali Fiagbe, he'll be talking about managing your mental health, and it's part of our effective living series brought to us by Enterprise Insurance and Hallmark Freight and Logistics Ghana Limited.
Don't you know? Beautiful, don't you know? Live your life.
Welcome to another edition of your on-air series for the Effective Living Series 2023. My name is Bernard Avle. This week we're focusing on emotional and mental health imperatives for the year 2023, and our focus for today is managing your mental health. My guest is the head of department for psychiatry at the University of Ghana Medical School here at Kolebu, Dr. Delali Fiagbe. Doc, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's good to see you. I know apart from managing the department as head, you also do a few things. Can you tell me a bit about what else you do?
I run a private practice
Okay.
at Samis Medical Center.
Okay.
And then I also like to play the piano.
Oh, so you're a musician?
Yes.
I see. So you run a private practice, you play the piano as well. And of course, congratulations, you're a fellow of the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons.
Ghana Surgeons.
What does that mean? It means that you can wear a big hat? Or...
Yes, you can wear a big hat. It gives you the leverage to teach students. You can teach other doctors who want to specialize in your field. And then other specialists who want to go ahead to become fellows. So you can also teach them. And then it gives you an opportunity to handle, other administrative positions within the college.
I see. When I was growing up, there was only one mental health doctor I knew, Dr. Asari. And for a long time, he was the only person. Then I think Dr. Akwesi also took over. It wasn't a very popular field. How did you get into that field?
Well, I've had a passion since my early days in medical school. I was intrigued by the fact that people who had mental disorders had solutions. There were solutions available to them, and that, blew my mind. So I decided to explore it more. From the Christian background, you know what it means when people have mental illness, we spiritualize it and all that. So I found a way around it, and then my passion just picked and I went into it.
Wow.
And I'm encouraging more people to join.
Amazing. So what do we mean by mental health?
Yeah, so mental health is basically how you think, how you process information, how you interpret signals around you in a way that allows you to adapt to the situation in which you are. And most people have taken mental health for granted, but it is something that is real, it's existential. Everybody has it. Children have it. It spans the whole life cycle. So children, in fact, in kids, there's something we call fetal distress. So that is before the child even comes to the world, they start having mental health issues.
Fetal distress.
Fetal distress.
Wow.
And distress, that means two. So 2 times of stress.
Wow.
Whilst you are in your mother's womb.
Double stress.
I tell you.
Wow.
So and then children have it when you're born. Adolescents have it when you are transitioning from childhood to, adulthood, and even the transition from adolescence to and adulthood also it's fraught with a lot of mental health issues. So it's everywhere. Elderly people have dementias and all that. So mental health is something that is with us, but we use the ostrich approach as if it does not exist.
We pretend it doesn't exist, and we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
But why is mental health important for effective living?
I like to borrow a scripture from the Bible that says that I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospered. So the soul there is basically your mental health.
Okay.
So it means that even if you prosper without a good soul or without a prosperity in your soul, then become deficient, you may not be able to enjoy it. That's why it's critical for every individual who wants to blossom in your lifestyle to take your mental health seriously, because
your success is hinged on that. You know, as the Bible categorically stated it. We've seen people who are rich, you know, they didn't take their mental health seriously and they came crumbling down. And quite a number of people. So it's critical to this effective living for every individual.
Wow. So mental health is a broad area. What are the components of mental health?
We call it the trinity of mental health.
Okay.
So the first one is the biological component. So that has got to do with, you know, your upbringing, your genetics, the neurotransmitters that you have in your brain. It's not by anybody's fault that you come into this world with little dopamine, and for that reason you might go depressed or something, but it does exist. The other component is the psychological component. So that's about your behavior, your attitude, your coping skills, coping mechanisms, your hobbies and all that. It forms a colossal amount of what your mental health is. The other part is the social, so how you're able to interact with people, your friends, your family, your political affiliations, all those things form part of you. You know, so these are key components of your mental health, and that's those in the field. That's what we use in managing patients. There's a component in the history taking. If, let's say, I have a patient, we call the pre-morbid personality. Now, what does this involve? It just involves me finding out what the patient's lifestyle was before they had the condition. And it gives me an inkling into the deficits that he has that contributed to the condition that they're having, and then their strengths. So I can home in on their strengths and move them into treatments. And then if there are family issues, we use that as a way of resolving the problems that they have. So it's a huge component of, you know, effective living.
So there's your biological, there's the psychological and the social. And you use a word by dopamine, which means that you could have certain hormonal issues just purely because of who gave birth to you. Exactly. And that, if not properly managed, can have a deleterious effect on your mental health.
Exactly. So, but it's like a Venn diagram. So you have these three components all interacting together. So you could have a genetic predisposition, but if your environment is cool, that gene will never get expressed. Okay. So, and you can also have, you know, very bad psychosocial environment. Even if you have a genetic problem, you never manifest. So it goes in both ways.
So you investigate for all three?
Exactly, we investigate for all three, the biological,
the biological intrigues me. You use the word dopamine. What is dopamine?
Dopamine is one of the million neurotransmitters in the brain. It's actually responsible for our sensation of pleasure. So if you take alcohol, if you smoke, if you have sex, what makes you sense the pleasure
is dopamine.
It has, there must be a gush of dopamine.
It sounds like an error word. Dopamine. Powerful.
Yeah, so sometimes we manage people because they have low dopamine levels, okay. You give them the appropriate treatments, they are back to themselves. The other neurotransmitters like serotonin or adrenaline.
Adrenaline. I see.
Adrenaline rings a bell.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what gives you energy to run, thrive in life, run for the
sense danger and that kind of thing. Wow. This is interesting. We'll come back to the Venn diagram. So let's talk about what do you need to do to enjoy good mental health. So what are some of the things a person needs to do to enjoy good mental health?
Yeah, so I'll still go back to the three components. So psychological, you need to be able to have good relationship, you need to be able to have good coping skills, you need to be able to have good hobbies, and then socially you need to be able to interact well with people, and then you also need to know yourself. You need to know what your strengths and what your weaknesses are. You shy away from your weaknesses and emphasize your strength, and if you do that, that should be able to make you enjoy a very good mental health. And I said initially that we pretend that mental health does not exist, and that's the reason some people even don't enjoy it. But when it comes to the fact that mental health is crucial, it's important, it forms a significant aspect of your life, then you begin to recognize it, and then where possible you enjoy it. If there are deficits, you correct them.
Interesting. This is the Effective Living series, and we are in our second week. Our focus for the week is emotional and mental health imperatives for 2023. Our focus for today is mental health. My guest is Dr. Delali Fiagbe. He is the head of department for psychiatry, University of Ghana Medical School. He also does a private practice. And he's told us already that there are psychological, social, and biological dimensions of mental health. Mental health is very important for effective living as well. Now you're saying, how do you enjoy good mental health? Know yourself. But that's very broad, because what about if I'm a teenager? What if I'm a young child? Typically, people become aware of themselves the older they get. All right. So you already said that there's even neonatal fetal distress, right? So at what point does a person begin to know themselves? Because if you have a patient who's 40 years old, he can tell you that in my first 30 years, I used to follow guys who smoke weed or something. But if I'm 9 years old and I am depressed, how am I able to know myself that if I come to you, you can help me?
Yeah, I mean, that is challenging for maybe the unaided eye, but with some training, we're able to pick up children who are depressed. We're able to pick up children who have conduct disorders. Mm-hmm. So for now, it's going to be by proxy. The parents have to be aware. I think that's why we are championing this cause, that children have mental health issues. For example, if it's not for any reason that a child will decide not to go to school. There are particular reasons. You know, a child who is not eating, there are reasons why they are not eating. A child who is not sleeping, there are reasons why they are not sleeping. So if that comes to the fore and you draw attention, there are ways of working around it, you know, to pinpoint exactly what is wrong with the child. So again, let's go to dopamine again. There are some children who have low dopamine. Now, if you have low dopamine, what happens is that it's difficult for you to control your urges, you know, it's difficult for you to control your actions. So you can have this child who is running around every time, you know, they touch this thing, they pull this thing down. We call them attention deficit hyperactivity syndrome. The main reason is that they have low dopamine at a certain part of the brain. So if you find out and you think that this child is just a stubborn child, you've heard right from the word go. So you can ask us to see, you know, we'll evaluate them and see if there's a need for us to give medication, we give. If there's not a need to give medication, and there are some others, psychosocial components that can be modified around the house, in school, in church, that can help the child to cope. You know, we deploy those systems and usually it works out for them. So for children, they might not be able to say. Sometimes we ask them to draw. So for example, some of the children who have been raped, the way we find out is ask them to draw. And to amaze you, they'll draw the acts. It's surprising how they're able to do that.
It's imprinted on their mind.
It's imprinted on their mind, and they're able to put that across in drawing. So
as against saying it verbally.
Exactly. Sometimes you ask them to play. So we just study them, how they are playing with their colleagues. You know, there are some children who have that deficit. They are not able to interact well. Autism disorder, they have difficulty interacting with people. They have a very close world, so they don't invite people in. You change the routines and they're all over the place. So during their play, we're able to tell that, oh, this patient has maybe an autistic spectrum disorder or something. And there are treatments for such people.
You are mentioning many things. ADHD something, autistic. So maybe let me put it this way. Two things. Some people say we all have mental health problems. So I could come from that angle. Some people to say, is anything like a normal person? So maybe let me frame the question differently. Do we all have mental health challenges?
We all have mental health. Some people have the disorder. Okay.
So we all have mental health challenges, but some have a disorder.
Yes, everybody has a challenge of a sort. I mean, so you lose somebody, you have a challenge. Your child doesn't make a mark in class, they have a challenge. So that's how it's, like I indicated earlier, it's how you interpret things, how you think about things and process information. So there's that challenge that you have to, you know, face. But some people, when it gets beyond a certain threshold, then we can define that as a disorder, because beyond that threshold, it affects your interpersonal relationship with people, it affects your work, you know, be productive at work, you come to work and sit and just stare at people. So when it crosses that threshold, then it becomes a disorder. But otherwise, there are challenges within decent, you know, limits of normality that we accept.
What are the commonest mental health disorders that you have seen in your practice or through research in Ghana?
In Ghana. So we look at them as mood disorders. We look at them as thought disorders, and maybe substance use disorders. So these are like the
Mood, thought, substance use.
Yes, these are like the broader. And then the children also have their barrage of disorders that we look at. But generally, we look at them. So under the mood, so I give the example of if you pass an exam, you can be so excited. You have like 8 A's, which you didn't expect. That night, you'll not be able to sleep. You know, you might drink your head off and all that. So if that goes on 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, you are not sleeping, then you are moving into another area
from a challenge to a disorder.
Because you're not sleeping. If you don't sleep for 5 days, it will impair your reasoning process and all that. So those are like how your feeling can lead you into a disorder. In the same way, if let's say the result is flashed and you've had all F's, you know, you feel down. We are expecting you to feel down. It's normal, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
But if you
continue beyond that, you can't wake up out of bed, you can't eat, you've lost appetite, then we think that there's a problem. So that's how we do our formulation. We look at whether this particular issue is affecting the individual's lifestyle in all the various dimensions that I've mentioned. That's how we work around it.
So there's the mood disorders, and then you have explained 2 aspects of that.
Aspect of it.
But you don't want to name the disorder.
Oh, well, I could name them.
Give me like a couple of mood disorders.
Mood disorders. So there's a bipolar affective disorder.
Bipolar affecting disorder.
Even though there are several
dimensions of
that one. But
and then which other one under mood?
Under mood, we have the depression.
Depression.
Yes, so
that appears fairly common.
Yes, depression.
Or people use it generally, but
generally,
it's not.
Yes, usually when you are sad, they say you are depressed, but it's really.
So depression is a specific condition.
Yes. Once you mention depression to a clinician, it means it's a disorder, and it must fulfill a certain criteria before you say you are depressed. So, for example, you should have a low mood, which should have lasted beyond 2 weeks. That occurs usually in the mornings and lasts throughout the day. You should have fatigue. You get tired at the least exertion. There's no energy, drive to do anything in the morning, and these patterns will go ahead and affect when and how you get up and go to work, productivity at work. It will affect your relationship with people. So, you can see the intensity. So that is what qualifies that as a disorder. So depression for us is a disorder. Otherwise, anything else, you are feeling sad.
You're feeling sad?
Yes.
I see. So there's bipolar, which have many spectrums. There's depression. So those are the 2 main mood disorders.
Those are the 2 main mood disorders.
And then talk about thought disorders.
Yeah, so thought disorders is usually how people perceive the world. Okay, so we perceive the world through our senses. So touch, taste, vision, smell. Because that's how we perceive the world. And what we perceive should be in relation to what others feel. So, for example, I'm sitting in this chair, and I feel a sensation that makes me get up, okay? And that goes on for a very long time. Each time I sit in this chair, I have to get up because there's something that, and somebody else comes to sit in this chair, the person is feeling fine.
Okay.
Then we think that there's some problem with how you process that information. So, for example, you can also hear stuff that nobody is hearing. You're the only person here, and that is affecting, how you see things, how you behave. I know it's getting a little complicated.
No, I'm following you. So once the way you process the thing mentally is abnormal or is irregular, you are possibly looking at thought disorders.
Yeah, you are looking at thought disorders.
Which means that all of us have decided that this chair is normal for sitting. But if you think the chair is for something else, then the problem is an issue.
For a very long time.
For a very long time.
Start affecting, each time you enter this room, you don't want to sit the chair, you are not working because that's affecting you. Then we think that there might be a problem.
So that's a thought. But what names do you give to these thought disorders?
Oh, so we have delusional disorders.
Delusional disorders. So this is not just English, like, you are deluded.
Oh, yeah. So if you tell me you are deluded, for me, it's a different matter.
But delusional disorders are specific.
They are specific. Okay.
I.e. perceiving things that are not real? Is that what delusion?
Yes, perceiving things or believing things which are not real.
That's the delusional disorder. Yeah. Which other ones are there under the thought ones?
Okay, so there's also schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia.
That's fairly common.
Schizo means two?
Schizo means split. Phrenia is mind.
So split mind. So it's like... It's different from bipolar. It's different from bipolar.
Yeah, it's different from bipolar. Bipolar, you cycle between like excited manic states, and then in the next phase, you are so depressed. So you are cycling between the two.
So it's the same person with two different spectrums of behavior.
Of
mood.
Yes.
But schizophrenia is
the thought process. So you are believing unusual things. You may actually be hearing things that nobody is hearing, and that goes on for a very long time.
This is the Effective Living series. Today's topic is understanding mental health. This is just the basics. So it's basically mental health 101. HOD for UJMS psychiatry is just giving us a basic walkthrough. I'm sure Breakfast Daily will invite him later on to do more deep dive into the subject. But Dr. Dalif Yagbe has been really exciting with us so far. Mood disorders is mentioned too. There are a few more. Thought disorders is mentioned, delusional disorders, schizophrenia. So let's get into substance abuse, just to be proportional in the discussion.
Exactly.
So if substance use disorders, what do you mean by that?
So I think I mentioned earlier on that dopamine is what gives jive to life and the rest. So there are some people, for some reason, have low levels. And some of these substances like cocaine, alcohol, weed or cannabis have a way of playing around our dopamine levels in the brain. If you take it once and you have the excitement and you get off it, that's not really a problem. I mean, it only becomes a disorder where you have impaired control. It's difficult for you to stop when you want to stop. And again, it's at the beginning to affect other areas of your life. You know, it's glaring that it's affecting your liver, it's affecting your kidney, and you don't give a damn. You keep going. So there's impaired control of that use. That is where it becomes the disorder. But otherwise, if you're a social drinker, you visit the pub and take a tot or so, we don't consider that, a disorder. So when the thing begins to affect other dimensions of your life, then we think that there's a problem. And that's when it becomes a disorder.
And so the persistent use of these things, beyond the fact that you can't control the use and you can't stop, can it lead to group A mood or group B thought?
If there's a predisposition, if there's a genetic predisposition, definitely these are like precursors that will move you faster
into those.
But if there's not, apart from cannabis, we know most research has shown that it hastens schizophrenia.
Cannabis hastens schizophrenia?
Yes, most of the thought disorders. But again, it's not for everybody.
Okay.
If there's a predisposition, then you can.
So that's if you smoke weed, it can lead to the schizophrenia. Is there anything in coded English? Or is that what you are supposed to say? If you smoke, that's cannabis is weed, right?
Oh yes, cannabis is weed.
Or marijuana.
Uncontrolled
use of it can lead to schizophrenia.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yes, if you're exposed to it,
I see.
It can lead to.
All right, let's come to stress. You used an interesting word. You said the fetus is distressed. And I didn't even think about stress in that sense. And die is two. So double stress. Let's talk about stress generally, because in this modern world lifestyle, it's a lot of work-related stress, which I believe also can affect mental health. Just talk to me about that.
Yeah. So again, to backtrack to the three dimensions of mental health, the bio, psychological, and social interplaying, one of the enzymes that will make you manifest a genetic disorder is stress. So it's crucial for us to know about it. And stress is basically getting to the point where your body is telling you, literally, I can't go on because there's so much pressure, and you don't have the resources to be able to handle, the pressure. It's not all that gloomy. Pressure, stress is good to a certain threshold where it becomes, inimical to you. So maybe before coming for this, I had a little bit of stress, it was making me read around, making sure I gather my thoughts properly for the discussion. That you need that adrenaline to be able to do that. But if stress goes on and there's no escape routes, then of course it becomes dangerous, and that will lead you into what we call you being burnout. Okay. So generally, this is what, stress is, there are various reasons why you could have stress, and there are various manifestations. Right from what you eat can give you stress. Your interactions with people, your wife, your kids can give you stress. Your work can give you stress. And even your spiritual life sometimes can give you stress. If you have to be going to all night back to back, it can give you some level of stress. So basically, I think that.
So how do you manage stress?
The management of stress is diverse. It depends on the individual. I mentioned earlier that we always do a coping skill analysis. You should know what works for you. There's no straitjacket for anybody when it comes to dealing with stress. But basically, we think that if you know yourself very well, you know what works for you. God has worked that into every individual to be able to regulate their stress. The only thing is that we don't take mental health that seriously. So, it's happening, but we don't know it's working. If you're having a good sleep, that's a way of dealing with stress. You're expected to have like 7 to 8 hours of sleep. If there's a deficit because of work, you always make up for it. So the body itself has that arrangement to deal with stress. I mentioned food. So there are some foods which are very good. And the eating process itself releases dopamine and some other neurotransmitters in the brain.
So eating is distressing.
Oh, yes.
You heard that phrase here. Charlie, when you get your cake, take your time and deal with it.
Exactly. The process of eating is distressing. Yes.
My Lord. But when you eat a lot, what if you eat too much?
Of course. It must be within a certain limit. So once you go beyond that, it can become also stressful. Once you start putting on weight, you look yourself in the mirror and you don't like yourself, that becomes another source of stress. Yeah. So, but I mean, taking time to eat and eating properly is distressing for a lot of people. Some people, when they are eating, this is the time they, make the calls. I mean, it's part of life anyway, but for them, that should not be a distressing process. You can go with the family somewhere to go and have a meal together. That process is distressing to the body. Yeah. And the religion is diverse. It's both ways. You can have religion being a stressor at the same time a de-stressor. Okay, so if there are some scriptures that you can quote to yourself that could help you. For example, the Bible says that David encouraged himself in the Lord. So that's something that you can use when you're feeling down and you're feeling stressed. Or music. Exactly. So music, some people lock memories in music. So each time the music plays, it evokes those good memories. And that also helps. There's also imagery that we sometimes use. Try to imagine beautiful places in life, things that you've done before. You sit down and just reflect on them. And by so doing, it's a very potent way of de-stressing yourself. There are bad ways of relieving stress. Substances, some people use it, but in the long run, it doesn't really help because it creates a lot of substance use problem for them. But otherwise, some people take a drink as a way of relaxing over the weekend. It's okay. I mean, you can do that. Yeah. But if you are taking like hard substances to do that, then we kind of counsel against that.
So you've piqued our interest in the subject, and I'm sure people want to hear more from you. How can they get in touch with you? Just to do a normal conversation, because I feel a lot of families may want to even go for a general checkup to see if they are okay. How can they get in touch with you?
So I'm in the Department of Psychiatry, Kolebu Teaching Hospital, University of Ghana. It's a bit confusing. The University of Ghana and Kolebu share the same space. So we have a department available there. And usually in the afternoons and the evenings, I run the private practice. So you can get in touch with me. I'm sure my number might be put up.
We'll put on the screen. Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Delali Fiaba. We used to call him Sila. When we were in the university, he's a main guy, Sila. Champion keyboardist. Now he's the head of department, UGMS. Hope you've learned something. This was basically an introduction to mental health. We want to make it a more regular conversation, not just on Breakfast Daily, but also on the Breakfast Show. So I'm sure you'll hear more from him and others as we demystify mental health. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Effective Living Series. We'll be with you next time. Bye-bye.
Everywhere I go, everywhere that I've been, the only thing I see is beautiful people.
series is sponsored by Enterprise Insurance and Hallmark Freight and Logistics Ghana Limited.
Everywhere I go, everywhere that I've been, the only thing I see.
So listening to the Citi Breakfast Show. Now, Heritage Christian College is at Amasaman behind the Olympic Stadium. They are affiliated to KNUST, accredited by GTech. They've got programs like BBA programs, BSc Information Technology, Bachelor of Theology, tutorials for professional programs, media and IT short courses. You can apply via their website, hcuc.edu.gh. You need a WASI, ABCE, GBCE, HND diploma top-up, mature 25 years or above. You can also send them a message on 0547 77731 or 0202 298399. Heritage Christian College offering world-class university education and training compassionate entrepreneurial leaders. Now, Provident Insurance is 40 years. Hooray! Provident Insurance welcomes you to a new year. Remember to insure your car or renew your existing motor insurance policy from now till the 31st of March. Then get a free gift such as fuel coupons and several other branded Provident souvenirs. Rush for your insurance cover now. T's and C's apply. Remember, with Provident Man, you are covered. Now, you're getting good insights from your data for decision making. Join the data analytics revolution and empower your team to work smart, save time, and deliver insights from data using the world's most powerful business tools, Microsoft Excel and Power BI. Finex Skills Hub is offering hands-on practical training to corporates and individuals in Excel for work, data analytics, and financial modeling to help you improve productivity at the office. Register now via finexskillshub.com. or call 0244 782356 to sign up for our corporate and individual training sessions. Finex Skills Hub. Learn, connect, grow. There's still the Citi Breakfast Show. We'll go through your comments in a second.
The words you say hurt me so much. I shimmy, so I shimmy move that much. And chana nipa huwa flow nipa. I know they bother too much, but men so me want feelings be. And see we am a dear, I'm a tinny me move. So me best me de won't want before be shimmy move. Treat me like your brother, and treat me like your sister, and make me one of your own. Treat me like your sister, treat me like your brother,
A few comments have come through on the number 0549986996. Let's go through some of the comments. Kokui?
Okay, well, here's someone who's listening to the Effective Living series, but unfortunately, we don't have the expert here in studio to ask him, but the person had a question about whether or not there's any relation between stuttering and stress hormones and anxiety. Well, is there a way they can reach the resource
I think I announced it on the air. He has he's the head of Department Medical School Psychiatry, but he has a facility in Nansoma, and I'll get the name for you.
All right. Now, good morning, Team Citi. Kudos to Bernard for the simple breakdown of the financial sector business. Nowhere is safe in Ghana for savings and investment. Okay. Citi FM team, Sky is on point with this money laundering thing. Another is those apartments with extraordinary charges. This is Kobe from Adenta. Good morning, Team Citi. Watch Ozark, the best movie for money laundering. This is Eddie from Tema.
Okay.
Bernard and team, please, I have some small money that my daughter made from her Susu saving. I'm trying to use this as seed money to invest into EDC investment for her and her younger brother for their future education. What is your advice to me with regard to this debt exchange program? Thank you. I'm Lacious.
Well, call your financial advisor.
Yeah, that's right. So,
call your financial advisor.
Straight up. Okay.
The things I've said, baby, already. I don't want to say anymore.
All right, Bernard, can a financial institution or bank decide to sign up part or some of its government investment in the debt restructuring program?
What do you mean? Decide to sign up? Yeah, that is on offer. So they have to decide whether they want to do it or not. So they can either take it or reject it. So yeah, they can't decide to take it.
Okay. Sana from Medina says, why don't we start by cancelling all ex gratia payments, especially for those who have done more than one term? Thank you. Okay. I just dropped my son at school. The reception was filled with parents and children. The school says no fees, no entry because they need funds to run the school and to pay the teachers, etc. You can't blame the school, but you can't blame parents either.
And by the way, they've increased our school fees.
Oh, that's what the school fees did.
And they send a message to us.
The fees did.
And we pay it quietly.
Yeah, I think tomorrow we have to focus on that.
Education.
Yeah, because I mean, people would have experiences today. So tomorrow, I think we need.
Tomorrow we can find out from people how day one went.
Yeah, but you know, one of the things that baffles me, you know, we are not serious, and I'll explain. Sky, you, myself, Kokui, we send our kids to private basic schools. You know how much the schools charge for training these kids. You know how much they charge for food. And you know they are not cheating you. You know they are not cheating you because you see the teachers, you know the sacrifice they put in, class of 25, you know the homework your daughter is doing. You can see the improvement. You see the food they eat. They send you menu. And we are all paying, Nathan, I think an average of at least 4,000 a term cedis. It could be more. It could be, some people pay much, much more. Then your state says they are paying school fees for people. They are giving capitation grant. And they are giving 3 cedis. Like, actually, like you can't, it's like, it's beyond ludicrous. It's like, it doesn't even make, like, all of us sitting here, we know that send your child to any private school. That's not even charging you too much. If they do the calculation for how much they need for school fees, if you don't pay 3,000 per term, then the government is giving people money to run public school. Meanwhile, the school that our kids are, their students are 25, 30 per class, sometimes 18, sometimes 35.
You're talking government 50, 60.
Go to so we're doing memorial my job. There are 70 people. There's one teacher. In the school my child is, there are 3 teachers. And there are 25 to 30 students. 3 teachers in a class. And they also have subject teachers. Okay? So, and then you get up and you say you are doing free basic education. And you are giving people pittance to educate. So if what Sky is saying about education is true, give another example. I usually get invited to speak to universities. I've spoken to a foreign university. They have a program in Ghana. The class is like 8 people. The program, they pay over $35,000. All right? And I'm not saying they should increase the University of Ghana fees, but because they know what they are giving the people, that's the cost of educating the person. You don't want to educate the people. You just want to win election or whatever you want to do. So you say you are paying whatever. How can you have, even if you take a person, no wonder the investors are now doing fee paying. We can't even manage with COPE again. Because if a university has 100 slots for medical students, and you're saying they should charge maybe 8,000 or 9,000, to train a doctor, you need much more than that. Okay, so all the investors are now finding a way of saying, okay, if you have 100 slots, we'll give 20 slots to the people who get 8 A's. Then the 80 slots all fee paying. Guess what? The Nigerians will come and take half of that. We are not being, you see, we always start our work from the wrong side. Start from how much does it cost to train? What do you want to produce? I want to produce a quality doctor that can be globally competitive. How much does it cost to train the person? Then how do we find the money to do it? Not, okay, government, this year we want to win elections, so we'll give this one to this free planting for food and jobs. We'll get this. We'll give one to build dams. Then we'll give education this. We don't have money. Yes, and we have invented the question. Now, I'm not saying government should give investors $30,000 per student, but if you start from how much does it take to, what do you want to achieve? I want to train a quality university student that can compete globally, so that people when they go to hospital get good treatment, right? How much does it cost to train such a person? How do we find the money in a sustainable way? Then you can come to funding models, loans, and things. But we always come from the point of view of we are not interested in training quality people. Because the class I was speaking to a few days ago, of these 8 or so students, they are foreign students. Look, but they are in level 400. They are doing communication. Their Ghana program is the 3rd country they visited. Some have visited Buenos Aires. Some have visited Vienna. Some have traveled to Paris.
This guy will go and work as a journalist in their country, and you come and compare to somebody who has done 1 year at DIJ. He hasn't got. He hasn't even get internship. CTFM can even get internship to do. This guy has gone to Buenos Aires to do something. A Chinese girl is learning French. She speaks French after doing a gap year in France. She's come to Ghana, come and learn Ghana's political system. You put her in charge of the Economist as the head of, even as a staff writer for Economist for Africa. I mean, you can't even. So we are not ready. We are not serious. We are just doing. Because if you want to compete, you need the best. If this girl who was in the class I spoke to last week then comes to Ghana as the staff writer for The Economist, the articles she produce will be world class. It will feature in page 4 of The Economist. But you go and report, your journalist doesn't even have a proper appreciation of his own context. He has no experience, no internship program. He's just doing chew and pour. How is he going to produce good journalism? You can say that for doctors, for all the things you're doing. So let's start from the right question of what do we want to produce and how do we achieve it. And let's not use this tokenism of, let's just give this money for this person and then we're agitating, we'll pay the fees. As a society in 2023, education is our only hope out of where we are. If we are to compete with the world powers, the only thing that can help us compete with Korea, Singapore, and China is education. So we must pay the ultimate price to educate our people. If Sky had not been educated, and I'm not saying being a mate is a wrong thing, but if he were a mate, the value he has to us here, the value he has to families, he was a mate in Osa bus from Accra to Kumasi because he couldn't pay his fees. He was very intelligent. He was one of the best students in the school. He qualified to go to Tech. He couldn't go because he didn't have money. And the society so there will be many more Richard Skies in politics, in law, in finance, in economics, in religion, who will end up as mates because they can't pay their fees because society has rejected them. We haven't created a system that says nobody with Sky's mind should end up as a mate. Even if he's going to be a mate, he must be an educated one. We are not doing that. And that's why we cannot compete, because we are not asking the question from the right perspective. Imagine if he had not been educated. Think about it for a minute. Do you think the value of Sky's education is just the English he speaks? Or the salary he earns? If you had bought a piece of land in Dodowa versus educated Sky, what Sky has created in Ghana today, and the knowledge he has acquired, the number he's helping, the role he's plays in our democracy, how much value can that land give you? Or if you bought a house or bought a car, or you gave it to some foot soldier to win an election, versus investing in one person. So that's how we should do our evaluation. It's not like, how much will it get me? Even if you put the money in the bank, one human being educated, a whole generation has been saved. Look at his kids. Look at his extended family. Look at his village. Look at his media community. That's how we should think about education. That if we want to compete, we must do all it takes to educate people well, not just to win votes. If the child doesn't know anything, Kokui, if your child doesn't know something, you know. When you change your children's school, didn't you see the difference? You can tell. Because when somebody is educated, you will know. And we are not, and with all these youth boards, we are not educating them properly. We are just, how can you be mass producing university graduates? For God's sake. Mass producing university graduates. For what? To come and do what? These are the issues. These are the issues that we need to address.
And it's not like the knowledge they are getting is even, it helps them fit in, right? And even what we are teaching at that level.
Let me deal with something that Bernard spoke about. So the other day, someone called me and said, I am a student of GIJ. It's no longer GIJ. It's
Unimac.
And I want an opportunity to do internship at Citi FM. But I heard your boss said that, some of the students coming out of GIJ, they have questionable skills after all these years of education. So where did you hear that? So some people brought their CVs here and they were told that, anytime they came, the performances sometimes very, very undesirable. So I said, okay, first of all, what's the name of X person running this particular institution? Journalism student. 400, level 400. I don't know. Who is the minister of this? I don't know. can you edit voices that you have gone to collect on, say, Cool Edit or some software? Oh, me, I don't have laptop. Or even when I had the ones that we have, we use it to watch movies.
Oh.
No,
she didn't say that.
No, hold on. What's the biggest news story making at the time Russia and these things were going on? The news headlines. Oh, me, I don't watch BBC News, so I do ABCD. You see, Bernard made a very important point about the practicality of education and how we situate the training of people in the global context. Because as Komla Dumont said before, there's nothing like the Ghanaian excellence. You're talking about global excellence. And if you want to be a journalist, you want to be a journalist that is capable of competing at that level.
You want to be anything, actually.
Exactly. You need to understand where the context is. Is it possible that when they put you on the platform with that person from, say, University of Cardiff, respected as one of the leading producers of journalists in the UK and in fact the world, can you compete? Why is it that in this day and age, a journalist being trained as a GIJ, without any disrespect to the people providing the training, the student doesn't know, say, for instance, how to use Cool Edit to be able to edit a voice, so that when he comes to Citi FM, for instance, it is a straight plug-in. You understand? So that the whole idea of training is not hands-on. Because, look, when I was in Buckingham, almost every 2 weeks, you have experts coming to speak to you about the law in action. Because you're reading about the law, you are learning about the law as it has evolved. But what is the practical effect of the law in action?
Yeah.
You have journalists coming in, respected journalists, retired journalists. What were the mistakes that they made? How did they navigate the waters as to get to where they ultimately got to? These were the practical sides of education as offered elsewhere. The question is, are we doing that here? So somebody come 2x4 slides, back, is finished. Okay, so you go and read the slides and come. So some of my relations go to university. They have come back. Okay, so what's the textbook you are using for this? Oh, they have not given us any textbook. They say we should read the slides. I mean, how do you educate in today's world?
Oscar, not to cut you, one of the reasons why the institutions are not able to do that is also because they are not being given the right support.
Okay.
Because there are private institutions which have been, which I'm saying that, I'm not saying privatize. Give the institutions the funding they need to produce the world-class students you want.
Okay.
They can't get water out of stone.
All right, guys, let's just pause. Let's just take a quick break. When we come back, we'll try and wrap it up. This is still the Citi Breakfast Show. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Unleashing the power of relevant.
the Citi Breakfast Show. Let me read this final one.
Babylon I weep.
Babylon I weep.
Babylon.
Yeah, man. Rasta.
Babylon I weep. Rasta, I go tear down Babylon. You know Babylon? Babylon is the enemy.
Babylon is the enemy.
Rasta shout for years, but Babylon still the reign. Rasta for change.
They are still man.
Rasta no dey sit up. Babylon I weep.
That's how we wrap it up this morning on the Citi Breakfast Show. The house was full. I had got show produced by Caleb Kuda and Fred Jabano. Godfred Odum supported us on technical. We are back tomorrow morning with another exciting episode of the Citi Breakfast Show. Well, let's get into the news at 10. Nete is here. Hey.
Masa.
Tele Ajaho.
Okay.
Ajaho.
See, now that's you mentioned the name.
Ajaho. No, she should stop raising it. It's Ajaho. Not Ajaho. It's Ajaho.
Netele herself doesn't know how to pronounce her name.
Ajaho.
Netele pronounce your name.
Ajaho. Ajaho.
Today is the first time I've heard you pronounce it this way. You've been saying Ajaho. Ganyobi Tete. Ganyobi Tete.
No. So is it that crap people where did they spoil the thing? The name is not.
It's Ajaho.
It's Ajaho, not Ajaho. It's Ajaho because there's something to it.
Thank you.
What is to it?
No, that one we'll have a conversation later.
Good morning and welcome to Citi News at 10. Coming up at Greatman.